Hey guys, tonight we're slipping silently into the shadows of history, tiptoeing down dim alleyways, slick with rain, past the flickering torchlight of suspicious guards, toward a world of poison rings, retractable blades, and whispers traded for blood. You're not a noble or a knight tonight. You're something colder, quieter. You are a medieval assassin. Your targets don't know your name, and your clients never want to meet in the daylight. You sleep in corners, move like mist, and disappear like a ghost. But let's be honest, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments, where in the world are you listening from tonight? What's your local time now? Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The night air clings to you like damp wool as you crouch in a cramped crawl space beneath the floorboards of a crumbling tavern in Bruges. Your knees ache. You've been waiting here since dusk, and now it's well past midnight. Above your head, drunken laughter sloshes from one side of the room to the other, accompanied by the clink of tankards and the deep rumble of a lute. Your target is upstairs, likely asleep, or passed out. You've memorized the creaks in every board on the way up to his room. You've already loosened the hinges on his shutter, knowing it's your escape route if you're lucky. But luck isn't your business. Calculation is. Patience is your oldest friend. Poison is your backup plan. And the dagger pressed between your ribs is your insurance. No one wants to admit it, but the truth is clear. Being an assassin in the medieval world is nothing like the stories told by bards or modern fantasies. You don't move through the shadows with elegance. You stumble. You bleed. You choke back the fear of death every time you accept a contract. And there are no guilds with fancy robes or romantic codes of honor. There are only clients, payouts, and bodies that need to vanish. You didn't start this life because you were gifted. You started because you were desperate. Maybe it was a stolen loaf of bread that turned the local sheriff's eye. Maybe your father died owing gold to the wrong people. Or maybe, just maybe, you saw something you weren't supposed to see, and the only way to survive was to become useful to someone far more dangerous than yourself. Your first kill wasn't a noble target. It wasn't righteous. It was a baker's apprentice who'd seen your face during a botched robbery. You were given a choice: kill him or be handed over to the guards. You chose the knife. You still remember how it didn't go in smoothly, the sound he made, the way his legs kicked as he slipped from the world. That's what no one tells you about assassins. We don't start as killers. We become them layer by layer until it's the only face we know how to wear. You inch out from under the floorboards now. Your limbs protest joints cracking softly. You freeze waiting, but the revelry upstairs is too loud to notice a creak. You slide like a shadow into the alley and begin your climb. Each stone of the building is slick with moss, but your fingers find the familiar cracks. The dagger hilt clinks softly against your belt. Your heart beats harder now, not from fear, but from the promise of gold. That's the other thing. Money. You're always one job away from starving. The myths say assassins are rich, but the truth is that the coin never lasts. You spend it bribing stable hands, paying off old informants, or replacing boots that wore through during a trek across the Pyrenees. The job you're on tonight, a mid-level merchant who made the mistake of refusing a tithe to the wrong bishop. Your client is a whisper in a confessional booth. You've never seen their face. They paid half in advance, half after the body is confirmed missing. not dead. Missing. That's the trick. Sometimes it's cleaner to make someone vanish than to make them bleed. You slip in through the shutter. The room smells of old straw and spilled wine. Your target snores like a mule. You stand there watching him. One part of you wants to leave, walk away, start over. But the other part, the one that knows what hunger tastes like, what betrayal feels like, moves forward. Your blade kisses his throat. It's fast, efficient, but you feel it anyway, every time. You wipe the blade on his sleeve, then open the shutters and disappear down the side of the building like fog before dawn. The streets of Bruges are slick and silent now. You move through them without a sound, ducking through narrow alleys, blending with the barrels stacked beside an inn, vanishing into the scent of wet stone and old bread. You return to the place beneath the floorboards and wait. Just in case. You know better than to trust that any kill is clean until the sun rises and the city confirms it. As you wait, your fingers trace the old scars along your forearms. Each one a story, a mistake, a lesson. Assassins don't get tombstones. We get whispers, legends at best, suspicion at worst. And sometimes, not always, we get freedom, but only if we live long enough to buy it. And judging by the way your ribs still ache from that fall in Prague last winter, you're not there yet. You close your eyes, letting the hum of the tavern above lull you into a half-sleep. You won't rest, not really, not until the next name is spoken, not until the next pouch of coins clinks into your palm. Because for a medieval assassin, peace isn't just rare, it's dangerous. And your story's only just begun. You wake before dawn as usual, not because you want to, but because years of survival have trained your body to rouse at the softest shift in silence. The tavern above is quiet now, its drunkards either long gone or passed out cold. The embers in the hearth must be faint orange dust by now, the warmth long faded. The morning chill bites through the boards above you and creeps along your spine. You stretch quietly, listening. The creak of a bed frame. The soft murmur of wind pressing through chinks in the stone. No footsteps. No alarm bells. No shouting. That's good. That means the job went clean. You slip out of the crawl space into the gray breath of dawn and fade into the sleepy streets of Bruges. The dew slicks the cobbles and mists your eyelashes. It's cold, but you don't shiver. Shivering gets you spotted. There's a baker 2 streets over who leaves stale crusts out for the poor. You know the rhythm of his generosity. Every 7th day after sunrise, you pocket a piece of blackened rye and vanish into the fog before anyone else arrives. That bread will be your only food today. Maybe tomorrow, too. You were paid for last night's job, sure, but not yet. The second half of the coin will come through the usual channel, a wax-sealed pouch slipped into a bucket beside the cathedral's cistern. You'll have to wait. Like always. And you know what waiting means: moving. Never loiter in one spot too long, never make eye contact unless you have to. Even the alley cats know you. They scatter when they see you, tail flicking their suspicion behind them. You don't blame them. Animals always know who kills for a living. The rain starts soft, just a whisper on your hood. You tug it lower, but the wool is already damp from the night before. Medieval life is unforgiving for everyone but for you, for an assassin. It's a cruel game of rot, bone, and breath. No warm fires, no clean linens, no one waiting for you at the end of the day. Just grit between your teeth and bruises on your knees. Your contact today is a chimney sweep, or at least that's what he's pretending to be. He smells like soot and vinegar, and he always carries a feather tucked behind his ear. That's your sign. You meet near the river beside the tannery, where the smell alone keeps most people away. He doesn't greet you, just nods once and passes you a folded scrap of parchment. A name, a place, a time frame. There's no question this time. This isn't a noble or a merchant. It's a knight. Sir Edric of Dorsham, a war hero, respected, untouchable, which of course makes him the most desirable target on someone's list. That's the thing about power in the Middle Ages. It's as fragile as the chainmail it hides behind. The wrong whisper, the wrong debt, the wrong affair, and suddenly someone wants you gone. You don't ask why. You never ask why. That's rule 1. If you learn the reasons, you start to sympathize. And once you start to sympathize, your hand begins to tremble. And trembling gets you killed. The job is 4 days north near the cliffs of Dorsham. That means you'll need coin to secure travel or feet that can survive the rocky stretch along the old smugglers' paths. You choose your feet. They're cracked, yes, but they're reliable. And more importantly, silent. You travel light, just the barest of provisions, your blade and 2 vials of something foul that smells like crushed onions and death. 1 for the kill, 1 in case you're caught. That's the other rule. If capture is inevitable, you vanish. Not just physically, entirely. You drink the vial, make peace with it. That's the cost of staying out of a dungeon, of avoiding confession by fire. The journey north is uneventful, which is both a relief and an omen. You pass forests dense enough to swallow voices and leave footprints buried beneath wet leaves. You sleep under trees, waking every hour to make sure no one's found you. Even when there's no one around, you never sleep through the night. You can't afford to. By the time you reach Dorsham, your cloak is stiff with dried mud, and your boots have split at the toes. You're just another shadow limping past a roadside shrine, eyes down, posture hunched. You blend in with beggars and travelers. No one sees you. That's the point. The village itself is small stone cottages that huddle like gossiping peasants, all looking toward the looming estate on the hill. That must be his manor. You note the guards, 2 by the gate, another walking the perimeter with a torch. You count his steps, observe the timing. You'll need at least 3 days of watching before you attempt anything. A rushed job gets you dead, or worse, famous. And you don't want to be famous. Fame is a death sentence for people like you. You spend your days fishing scraps from behind the inn, listening to gossip while pretending to be mute. You catch wind of Sir Edric's routine morning ride midday, sparring late-night prayers. He's pious. That could work in your favor. Piety makes people predictable. The hardest part of any job isn't the killing. It's the waiting, the watching, the long, aching boredom of sitting in one place, motionless, while your knees scream and your stomach growls. You train your body to stillness, your breath to quiet, your thoughts to drift away like smoke. On the 3rd night, your opportunity comes. A servant leaves the kitchen door unlatched. The guards are drunk. Someone brought ale from the next village over. Sir Edric is in his chapel alone, as he always is after sunset on Fridays. You slip through the side garden, careful not to snap the frozen herbs beneath your feet. The chapel door is open. He's kneeling, facing away. You step inside. Blade ready. But then he speaks. "I knew someone would come," he says, voice calm. "I've sinned, haven't I?" You freeze. That's not part of the plan. He turns slowly, eyes soft. He doesn't reach for a weapon. He just sighs. "Make it quick." You hesitate. Just for a breath. But hesitation is a luxury you can't afford. You move. And once again, your blade finds its mark. Just beneath the ribs, clean and silent. As he crumples, he murmurs, "Thank you." And in that moment you feel nothing. Not relief, not guilt. Just the cold settling back into your bones like an old friend. You leave through the servant's door, disappearing before the prayers turn to screams. And somewhere far away, your next job is already waiting. The morning after Sir Edric's death arrives with frost so thick it crusts the rooftops in glittering silence. You don't stick around to watch the chaos unfold, can't afford to. By the time his body is found, you're already a day's walk away, your cloak turned inside out, your gait altered slightly to match the limp of an old injury you never actually had. That's the trick to disappearing change, just enough of your shape that even people who think they know you begin to doubt their own memory. As you cross a narrow bridge spanning a shallow creek, you notice the water has frozen over in thin, delicate sheets. You pause and crouch, not to drink, but to see your reflection. And for a moment, you don't quite recognize the eyes looking back at you. They're yours, yes, but there's something older behind them now. A dullness. A weight that doesn't lift no matter how light your coin pouch feels. Because it's true what they say, every life you take stays with you even if you don't invite it. You never dream of your victims exactly. But sometimes in the quiet hours, you feel their presence behind your shoulder. Not angry, not vengeful, just curious. As if they're still trying to understand why it had to be them, you keep walking. 3 towns south, there's a courier who wears a silver ring with a falcon engraved on the band. That's your next contact. You find him in a market square pretending to haggle over sheep's cheese while he slips a folded note beneath a turnip crate. You wait until the crowd thins before retrieving it. There's a name. Again. Always a name. But this time there's something else, an emblem drawn next to it. A wolf with its mouth stitched shut. Your stomach tightens. You recognize the mark. It belongs to the Guild of the Mute Tongue, a secretive network of spies and informants whose silence is bought and sold like wine. If they're involved, the job isn't just risky. It's a trap waiting to be triggered. But you don't get to walk away from contracts like this. That's another unspoken rule. If you start picking and choosing, your name starts making rounds. And if enough people start whispering about a picky assassin, well, you won't stay picky for long. You'll be dead. Or worse, made an example of. And trust me, assassins don't die clean when the guild turns on them. They die slowly, and their stories get told as warnings. The target is a woman. Unusual, but not rare. Her name is Lady Miran of Care Home, and she's a known associate of several political dissidents. That's all you're told. No reason. No motive. Just a location and a window of opportunity 3 nights from now during the Feast of St. Gertrude. You make your way there with care, sticking to deer trails and overgrown paths, resting only in abandoned chapels or shepherds' shelters. You eat dried beans from a cracked leather pouch and suck rain from moss when your flask runs dry. Comfort is a luxury that softens the senses. You've learned to survive on discomfort. You wear it like armor now. Kyer home is perched on a misty hill above a frozen lake. It's quiet, almost too quiet, like a village holding its breath. You take up position in the old bell tower of a ruined church across from her estate. From there, you watch and wait, always waiting. Lady Moraine appears each evening like clockwork, walking her rose garden in a heavy cloak. You observe her through a sliver in the broken masonry, noting her routine. She walks in slow circles, pauses by the same white rose bush, always alone, always at twilight. On the second night, you get your opening. A kitchen servant slips out to empty a pot, leaving the side door unlatched. You slide down the bell tower like water over stone, hugging the shadows, and press yourself to the estate wall. The wind shifts, and for a moment you catch the scent of roasted meat and thyme. Inside, footsteps echo on stone floors. Music filters through a stained glass window. The feast has begun. You slip into the garden. Moonlight drapes across the roses, and your boots leave only the faintest crunch in the frost. She's already there, standing with her back to you, her hands clasped behind her. You draw your blade, but before you step forward, she speaks. I wondered how long it would take them. You freeze. Her voice is calm, not frightened, not surprised. She turns and her eyes lock onto yours, not with terror, but with understanding. You can finish it. I won't run. But know this, if you kill me, you're not ending anything. You're just feeding the fire. She reaches into her cloak. Your instincts scream. You strike. But not before you see it, the parchment she was pulling out, not a weapon. A letter. Sealed. Marked with the emblem of the mute tongue. Your blade sinks deep. She gasps. Folds. Her knees hit the frozen ground like brittle wood. You catch her as she falls, lowering her gently beside the roses. Her blood stains the white petals. You stare at the letter. You open it. And inside, in clean, deliberate script, it says, "To the assassin sent to kill me, I forgive you. But know this, they fear what I know. And now, so will you." You fold it again with trembling fingers, tuck it inside your cloak, and vanish into the night, your mind spinning with 1,000 questions you'll never dare speak aloud. Because that's what it means to be an assassin in the medieval world. You don't get answers. You just get names. The road out of Care Home feels colder than it should. Even as the sun rises in hazy streaks of amber across the snow-covered hills, your breath comes out slow and heavy. The letter still burns inside your cloak, not physically, but in a way you can't shake. You've carried plenty of messages before, payment orders, target lists, contact signs. But none like this. No one ever writes to the assassin. No one forgives you. Forgiveness is foreign to you. You were raised on punishment, on consequence, on survival. What do you do with mercy? Where do you even store it? You don't have room. But the words echo anyway. You press on through the woods, crunching through frozen underbrush, avoiding open paths. There's a place east of Care Home, an old stone bridge built long before the wars, now mostly used by pilgrims and wandering monks. You know the routine stash, the proof of death under the northern arch, hidden beneath a loose rock, and a few days later someone drops your payment in the same spot. You do it mechanically. You don't leave the letter, only a sprig of the bloodied white rose pressed flat between parchment. A sign, a silent message. Then you vanish again. You find shelter in a broken-down mill 3 miles off the main road. The wind whistles through the rafters like it's trying to whisper secrets you're not meant to know. You tuck yourself beneath old sacks of grain, knees drawn to your chest, eyes open to the dark. You don't sleep. You just listen to the distant howls of wolves, to the shifting timbers, to the ever-present pulse in your ears. You replay the moment again. Her voice, her stillness, the parchment, and those last 4 words, so will you. You should burn the letter. You know that. It's dangerous to keep anything that connects you to a mark, especially one like her. But something in your gut tells you not to. Not yet. Maybe never. The next morning you return to the bridge. As promised, a pouch waits for you heavier than usual. Payment in full. But there's more. Tucked inside is another note. It bears the same wolf emblem, but this one is rushed, scribbled, the ink smudged. She wasn't the mission. She was the key. And now they know you've read it. Run. Your blood runs cold. No name, no signature, no further instructions. Just run. And suddenly, you're no longer the hunter. You're the liability. You leave the pouch. You leave the bridge. You don't even stop to catch your breath. You sprint across the frost-bitten fields and into the woods like your soul is on fire. You know how this works. You've cleaned up messes like this before, assassins who asked the wrong question, who lingered too long near the wrong door. And now you are one of them. Somewhere out there, someone has already been given your name. You double back, twist through unfamiliar trails. You cut across half-frozen creeks and scale ridges no sane traveler would attempt in winter. Your boots tear open. Your fingertips go raw. But you don't stop. Because you know the window of safety is rapidly closing. You finally collapse behind a mossy outcrop as the sky begins to darken. You lie there, panting, hands shaking uncontrollably, body screaming for warmth. There's no firewood, no shelter, just earth and silence and fear. And still the letter remains tucked inside your cloak, untouched. Your mind races. Who else knows why were you chosen? Was the job meant to fail? Was she even the target? Or was it all bait? For the first time in years, doubt creeps in. You thought you were immune to that. That your years of precision, of discipline, of blood-stained certainty had hardened you against it. But no, that doubt is sharp, colder than steel, and far more lethal. You press your back against the stone and try to slow your breathing. You listen, as you always do, for the sounds of pursuit. But this time the silence feels different. Not empty, but expectant. Like the world itself is watching you now. You drift into a shallow, miserable half-sleep. And in that fragile space between wake and dream, you remember something from long ago, a voice from your earliest training. Gravelly, distant. It's not the kill that makes you an assassin. It's what you do after. Back then, you didn't understand it. Now maybe you're beginning to. Because for the first time, you're not following orders. You're deciding what happens next. And that is the most dangerous path of all. You wake with your muscles locked and your joints screaming. The stone beneath your back has sucked all the warmth from your bones, and your fingers are so numb, you're not sure they'll close around your dagger if needed. But the forest remains still. No pursuers, no footsteps, no sudden glint of a blade through the trees. That only makes it worse. You were trained to expect action to counter it with silence and swiftness. But this waiting game, this shadow of a hunt not yet begun, it's more unnerving than any contract you've ever fulfilled. Because now you're not just hiding from a guard or a merchant's hired muscle. You're hiding from your own kind. And assassins don't give second chances. You force your limbs to move one at a time. Stretch, flex, twist your ankle until it stops protesting. The blood begins to flow again, painfully slow. You wince as the warmth returns. It stings, like being reborn through frostbite. But pain is familiar. Pain is grounding. You study the parchment again under the gray light filtering through the trees. She was the key. That phrase loops in your head. The key to what? A rebellion. A ledger of names, a secret no one wanted spoken aloud. You know the guild traffics in information as much as blood. They don't kill without reason. They erase, clean the slate, cover rot with silence. You've been one of their tools for years, but now you're the spill they need to mop up. And they'll do it quietly, elegantly. No mess, no sound. You move eastward toward the old Roman roads, stones cracked and half swallowed by moss, but still direct. You know of a man 3 villages away, a former forger who once owed you a favor. You saved his son from a public whipping back when you were still young enough to believe in small mercies. He can make you disappear. A new identity, a new trade, something slower, safer. Perhaps you travel by night, sleeping only when you must, eating dried roots and snow and whatever you can scavenge. Every time a branch snaps in the distance, your hand flies to your blade. Every silhouette becomes a threat, and every rustle in the underbrush is a whisper saying they're coming. But no one arrives. By the 3rd night, the road leads you through a burnt-out village, charred beams, caved-in roofs, bones half buried in soot. A signpost swings in the wind, the letters scorched away. You don't linger. Places like this attract more than crows, but the sight haunts you, because you've seen it before. Not this village, but this kind of silence, this kind of devastation. It's the sort of aftermath that follows a failed rebellion, or the kind of mistake someone like her would have tried to prevent. The idea needles you. What if you weren't meant to kill her? What if your job was never meant to be completed? The guild has done it before, hired assassins to test a target's defenses, not to remove them. Sometimes to send a message, sometimes to provoke movement, sometimes to justify an even bloodier sweep. And if you were the trigger, then the blood that's coming next might be worse than any single kill you've ever performed. You reach the forger's cabin before dawn. It's nothing but a hut tucked into the cleft of a hill surrounded by damp fog and overgrown vines. You knock once, then twice, then wait. A creak, a face behind the door. He recognizes you. His eyes widen not with fear, but with recognition. Trouble, you nod. He steps aside. Inside, the air is warm and sharp with the scent of ink and wax. The tools of his trade still scatter the table, carved seals, dried pigments, blank scrolls. He hasn't retired after all. You waste no time. You ask for papers. A new name, new marks, a pilgrim's robe maybe, something forgettable. But he holds up a hand. You were followed. You freeze. He nods toward the window. Just once. You duck down. A figure stands at the edge of the trees, not moving, watching. No colors, no banner, no weapon in hand. But you know the stance. Still, balanced, ready to lunge at the first sign. Assassin. Not one of the loud, flashy ones. No. This one's like you, or rather, like you used to be before doubt crept in. You grabbed the forger's wrist. How long has he been there since you stepped through the trees? So they let you come. They wanted you to find a haven. They wanted to see where you would run. Your mind races. Every escape route you had planned now feels too obvious. Every decision too neat, too traceable. You curse under your breath and check the back entrance. He's not alone. You see a second shadow slipping behind the stable. This is a message, not a strike. Yet, you know how it works. They're waiting for confirmation, waiting to see if you run or if you return to the fold, waiting to see if you burn the letter or use it. And for the first time in years, you realize you have power. Not much, but enough because you hold the message they fear. You turn to the forger. Do you still know the ink codes, you ask? He nods slowly. You pull the letter from your cloak and place it on the table like a royal decree. I need this copied. 5 times. Hidden in trade shipments. Sent across the spine of the continent. He hesitates. You'll be hunted. I already am. He picks up the parchment. Reads it once, then nods. I'll do it. You exhale just once. Not relief, but resolve. Because now you are no longer an assassin. You are a threat. You sit in the forger's hut watching his ink-stained hands work under the flickering lantern light. He's older than you remember, his hair gone fully gray, and his back bent from years hunched over delicate scripts and counterfeit crests. But his fingers are still precise, still capable. As he dips the quill and traces each symbol, each letter of the message Lady Moran left behind, your mind hums with possibilities and risks. The letter is simple, but the implications are deadly. It's not what it says. It's what it means. A woman marked for death by the guild of the mute tongue, who not only saw it coming, but crafted a final message not of fear, but of defiance, of exposure. They fear what I know, and now, so will you. Those words alone are poison. Not because they name names, but because they imply there are names to know. Power has always depended on secrecy in the medieval world. The church keeps scrolls locked in stone vaults. Nobles whisper in shadowed courtyards. Monarchs ride behind masks of holiness. But the guild has always stayed beneath it all, pulling strings from the muck, operating as rumor, not record. And you were one of their fingers. Now you're the loose thread unraveling the whole sleeve. The forger finishes the 5th copy. Each is made with a slightly different hand, one peasant scrawled, one merchant smooth, another in the sharp angles of foreign script. He burns the edges just so makes them look stolen, recovered, hidden. Then he seals them inside oilskins and begins placing them in hollowed sections of pottery bundles of wool and the false bottoms of spice crates. Each headed for a different town, each destined for someone with eyes and influence. I'll send the first with the caravan, leaving tomorrow, he says. They won't know what they're carrying. That's how it stays safe. You nod. You trust him. Or rather, you trust his fear. He understands the stakes now. Not just for you, but for anyone who touches this message. You sleep for a few hours, barely under his table blade and hand cloak wrapped tight. Every creak of wood or snap of twig outside jolts you half awake. You don't dream. You haven't in years. But tonight, there are flashes. Her face, her voice, the smell of blood and roses. When you rise, it's still dark. You eat a handful of dried oats and jerky and wash it down with cold, bitter broth. The forger is already outside checking the straps on a mule cart, as if this were just another market day. But you know better. As you prepare to leave, he hands you a new identity, a weathered badge from a minor abbey long since disbanded, a tattered set of robes, and a pilgrim's pass forged with all the right insignia. You're now Brother Jaron on holy errand, to pray for the soul of a disgraced cousin. It's believable. Boring. That's what you need. You step outside into the morning fog. The woods are quiet. No watchers today. Or maybe they're just better hidden now. You tie your dagger beneath your robes, tuck the original letter into a secret fold of cloth, and begin walking south. Not toward a city, not toward another contact, but toward answers. You know of one place that might help you make sense of all this. A monastery hidden in the cliffs of Velshold, where scribes have been copying forbidden texts for over a century. They don't take sides. They take knowledge. And if Mirane's message is more than just symbolic, if it connects to something larger, someone there might recognize the language, the emblem, or the intent behind it. The path takes you through ravines slick with old snow, across swinging rope bridges, and past wolf tracks you don't dare follow. You pass no travelers, no merchants, no pilgrims. Just silence. And every so often your instincts flare. A bird stops singing. A branch creaks once too loudly. But when you turn, no one is there. It's a waiting game now. You'll not be struck down in open combat. That's not their style. They'll let you run yourself ragged. Let paranoia hollow you out. And when you're most exhausted, most sure you've escaped, they'll strike. So you make your presence small. You sleep buried in leaves. You keep your fires smokeless and small. You change directions often. Sometimes you even double back, leaving false tracks to confuse anyone clever enough to follow your scent. It's not enough to be unseen anymore. You have to become untraceable. A week into the journey, you reach the cliffs of Velshold. The monastery is carved directly into the rock face, its spires rising like frozen candles above the trees. Monks in gray robes move silently across the suspended walkways, carrying scrolls and baskets like fragile relics. The whole place hums with quiet purpose, as if knowledge itself were too sacred to speak aloud. You present your forged pass. The monk at the gate squints at it, then at you, but says nothing. He lets you in with a nod. Inside, the air is warmer, dry, safe. You are escorted to a quiet chamber where you request an audience with the archivist. An old man whose hands tremble but whose eyes are sharp with memory. You show him the letter. Not the words, but the emblem, the stitched wolf. His expression doesn't change, but his silence grows heavy. He lowers the letter slowly and folds his hands. You are not the first to bring this, Mark, he says softly. You lean in, who else? He meets your eyes. A woman. 2 winters ago. She left behind pages, written in cipher. Pages we still have not broken. Your heart skips. Can I see them? He hesitates, then nods. And just like that, the story you thought was ending has only just begun. You follow the archivist down a narrow stairwell carved directly into the cliffstone. The walls sweat with condensation, and the air grows colder with every step. At first it feels like descent, but no. This isn't a dungeon. This is where the truth is buried. Not in darkness, but in silence. The chamber he brings you to is windowless and circular, lit only by 3 lanterns hanging from chains. Shelves line the walls filled with scrolls bound in oilskin, some disintegrating at the edges. A desk sits at the center, scattered with scraps of parchment quills dulled from overuse and a cracked magnifier. The archivist gestures to a locked box beneath the table. When he opens it, the scent of old ink and beeswax wafts up, faint but oddly clean. He removes a bundle of pages, fragile, some torn, each written in a cipher of looping lines, slanted marks, and symbols that resemble neither Latin nor Greek, but something older, wilder. She came during the thaw, he says, carefully unwrapping the parchment. Claimed she was fleeing an inquisition. Gave no name, only this. He pauses, lifting a sheet toward the light. We could not decipher it, not fully, but certain marks recur. Names, perhaps, or places. We believe it's a map of alliances. Not military, political. You lean in, and you see it faint but familiar. The stitched wolf emblem, smaller, etched beside a star-shaped mark you've never seen before. This one, the archivist mutters, tapping the star, appears on at least 4 pages, always beside names crossed out in red ink. Marked for death, you say softly. He looks at you. You realize you've confirmed more than you intended. The archivist places the page down gently. You were sent to kill her, weren't you? You don't answer. He doesn't need you to. She believed they were orchestrating something, not just assassination's replacement, silencing voices and inserting ones they could control. Priests, officials, even king's advisors. You nod slowly. It fits too well. She wasn't the target. She was the alarm. The archivist pulls out one final parchment. She left this the night she vanished. You hold your breath. It's not in cipher. Just 5 words. Inked in careful trembling Latin. Don't trust the couriers. Ever. Your gut twists. Every message you've ever received, every name, every assignment, delivered by the same chain of whispers couriers. If they were compromised, if they were the ones redirecting contracts, forging motives, choosing who lived and who didn't, then you've been a blade in their hand all along. Not a weapon of justice, not even of control. A puppet, pointed wherever they pleased. You step back from the table, your body suddenly heavy. Every name, every kill. How many were orchestrated by them not because the targets were guilty, but because they knew something or refused to play along? The archivist watches you. If you carry this forward, he says they will never stop hunting you. I know. Then why you reach into your cloak and retrieve the original letter, the one Lady Moran wrote, sealed and handed to death itself. You place it beside the ciphered pages. Because someone already died, trying to warn the world, you whisper. And I won't let that death vanish like smoke. The archivist nods once. Then he reaches for a fresh sheet of parchment and begins copying the cipher. And just like that, the monastery becomes your new base. For the next several days, you work in tandem with the scribes, translating what fragments you can. You learn that many of the names have already been eliminated silently, without scandal, and that several new ones have risen in their place, bearing subtle marks, affiliations, and loyalties to the mute tongue. It's not a guild anymore. It's a shadow government. You read accounts of priests preaching new doctrines just months after a predecessor's disappearance, of feasts where the host was replaced by a cousin no one had met, of knights recalled from battle and never returning only to be quietly replaced by someone with the same crest, but none of the same scars. And worst of all, you learn that your own name appears. Once, scrawled in the margin beside a red mark, a name to be watched, to be shaped, then erased. You stare at it long after the lanterns burn low. They never intended to let you grow old. You were always just a tool. But now you're a spark. The first ember in a fire they tried to smother before it began. You leave the chamber at dawn, stepping into the thin gold light blooming across the cliffs. Your feet feel lighter, your purpose clearer. You're no longer running, you're planning. And this time, you're choosing your next target. You descend the cliffside paths of Velshold with a new kind of clarity. The cold no longer bites, it sharpens. Every step you take feels more certain, more deliberate, like your feet are retracing lines in a pattern you were never meant to see until now. You're no longer just surviving. You're hunting the architects of your own past. The names in the cipher echo in your memory, some of them still redacted, others hauntingly familiar. You recall one vividly, Father Thane of Irmond Abbey, a name whispered once years ago in a tavern near the coast. You were told he died in his sleep. Now you see his name circled in black ink, marked not as deceased, but as converted. Converted to what obedience, loyalty, you'll start there. Your plan isn't formed fully, not yet, but it's beginning to take shape like a shadow behind a silk curtain. You need to confirm what the monastery scrolls implied, that people weren't just silenced. They were replaced, trained, controlled, one by one. You disguise yourself once again, pulling the pilgrim robes tighter around your shoulders, hood low, hands dirty. You move through villages with bowed head, offering prayers in exchange for bread, muttering psalms in the rhythm of a weary traveler. No one suspects. Pilgrims are common. Wandering monks even more so. And war has left every path filled with refugees, zealots, and broken men. 3 days later, you arrive at Irmond Abbey. It rises out of the winter fog like a fortress of stone and silence. The bells toll only once at dawn and never again. A bad sign. Vibrant abbeys ring with ritual. This one feels caged. You approach slowly, arms raised in supplication. The gatekeeper, a young, hollow-eyed monk, asks no questions, just nods and waves you in. Inside the abbey is clean, too clean. No children tending the garden, no novices sweeping the walkways. Only silence and the scent of candle wax herbs and something else. Something acrid beneath it all. Burnt parchment, maybe. You request shelter, a place to rest and reflect. You're granted a cot in the guest wing, but your request to see the abbey's head, Father Thane, is met with a pause. He does not take visitors, the monk says softly, even those on pilgrimage. The monk frowns. He is unwell. His voice fails him. Interesting. You pretend to accept the dismissal, but your blood begins to simmer with something close to recognition. The monastery records back at Velshold didn't mention illness. They mentioned conversion, and that silence, physical or symbolic, is often part of it. You bide your time. That night, as the others sleep, and the wind howls through the cracked windows of the dormitory, you slip from your bed and move through the dark hallways. Barefoot. Silent. You find Father Thane's quarters in the far east wing, past a sealed chapel and 2 locked doors. You pick them both in under a minute. The old instincts haven't dulled. Not yet. Inside the room is Spartan. No personal items, no holy relics. Just a desk, a basin of cold water, and a bed. On it lies a man whose face is both familiar and wrong. You remember him once from your youth, fiery sermons, sharp eyes, a voice that could shake rafters. Now his eyes are open, but empty, and sewn shut at the lips. Your breath catches, not stitched with thread, sealed by scar tissue, deliberate, ancient, like the monks of the Eastern orders who took vows of silence by force. But this wasn't spiritual devotion. This was mutilation, control. You move closer, and his eyes follow you. He sees, but he doesn't move, a prisoner in his own flesh. You whisper softly, "Do you know who I am?" No reply. Only a flicker in his gaze, a tremble at the edge of his fingers beneath the blanket. He knows. You pull from your cloak a single piece of parchment, the ciphered copy. You unfold it and lay it on his desk. His eyes widen. Then for the first time in what may be months or years, a tear slides from the corner of his eye. You've confirmed it now. They don't just kill, they erase. They take the loud ones, the questioners, the faithful who resist, and they hollow them out, make them into quiet shells. You back away slowly, heart pounding, mind racing. If this is what they do to clergy, the voices of morality, of truth, then what have they done to judges, scribes, royal advisors? And what might they plan for you if they ever get close enough again? You leave Father Thane's chamber and slip into the Abbey library. You need names, ledgers, old records of the Abbey's leadership who came, who left, who vanished without mention. The shelves are sparse. Too sparse. Pages have been removed, ink scraped from vellum. But one book remains untouched, a log of donations and land grants. You flip through and find something chilling. 10 months ago, the Abbey received a generous gift from a name you recognize. Sir Corwin of Wenthelm. Another red-inked figure from the cipher. Another converted. They're funding it. The silence. the scar-masked loyalty. It's not just hidden now, it's growing. You close the book slowly, your breath turning white in the cold. It's not about a guild anymore. It's not even about assassination. It's about infrastructure. Control of every channel through which the world speaks, writes judges and rules. And if they've come this far, then you are already deep in their crosshairs. You leave the abbey before dawn, slipping through the woods like smoke and vanish once more. But now you carry more than truth. You carry proof, and you know exactly where to take it next. You travel through low valleys and over ridges crusted with hoarfrost, your every step weighed down not just by the cold, but by the knowledge you now carry. Proof, real, undeniable proof that the mute tongue has grown into something far more dangerous than an assassin's guild. They are no longer hired killers. They are a silent empire, and it's spreading. The name Sir Corwin of Windhelm burns in your mind like a fresh brand. You saw it in the cipher. You saw it in the Abbey's donation logs. A knight by name, only noble by title, yes, but not by origin. Rumors long suggested he was elevated quickly, suspiciously quickly. But you'd never paid attention. Not until now. He's your next thread. The fortress at Windhelm lies 2 days west of the river towns, an isolated keep surrounded by wind-blasted moors and guarded not just by soldiers, but by silence. No ballads sing of Sir Corwin. No stories are told at the inns. When people speak his name, it's always soft, as if he were a ghost in armor. You arrive at a small town called Mardrick's Hollow, nestled in the crags south of the keep. It's the last safe place before the winds start to howl, before the landscape becomes nothing but frost and suspicion. You pay a local boy to stable your horse and trade your monk's robe for a huntsman's leathers, rough-spun, soot-dusted, and ideal for moving unseen. At the tavern you listen, always listening, and what you hear confirms your fear. He never comes down, says a traveling smith over watered ale. Just sends his riders. Same faces, always armored, never talking. You ever see one take off a helmet, someone asks. The smith shakes his head. Don't even drink far as I can tell. Just watch. You sip your ale slowly. Your thoughts race. What if it's not just Father Thane? What if Corwin's men, all of them, are converted? You wait until nightfall, then move. There's an old trail skirting the hills to the northeast. Once used by smugglers, now forgotten, half swallowed by thornbush and scree. You follow it in darkness, hood. Drawn low cloak, wrapped tight boots muffled by ash-soft moss. No fire. No torch, just the dim glow of a half-moon. You reach Windhelm by midnight. It looms like a judgment stone, spires against black sky, lit from within by steady torchlight. The windows glow faint orange, but you see no flicker of movement. The silence is oppressive. You circle the base of the outer wall, searching for weaknesses. You find one, an old drainage tunnel, partially blocked by vines and forgotten by time. You crawl through mud slick on your elbows, blade pressed between your teeth. You emerge into a cellar filled with root vegetables and the smell of damp iron. You pause and hear footsteps. Not hurried, not searching, pacing. 2 armored figures walk the hallway beyond, back and forth in perfect rhythm. You peer through the crack in the door. They are dressed in blackened male heads, enclosed in full helms, no insignia. No voice, just silence. Then one stops, slowly turns. You duck back just in time. Your heart pounds against your ribs like a war drum. Do they feel presence now? Are they trained like hounds, or are you imagining patterns in shadows? You slip out once they pass. Move upward through narrow servant corridors. Every corner brings risk. Every stair is a calculated breath. At last you reach the solar, the Lord's private chamber. The door is unbarred. Of course it is. They want you to come. Inside, Sir Corwin sits in a high-backed chair. His armor is polished, immaculate. His face visible for once, pale, angular, eyes so light they seem nearly white. He looks at you, calm, unblinking. "I knew you would come," he says softly. You draw your dagger, then you know why. He nods. You've seen what lies beneath, the rot behind the parchment, the blood behind the crown. Call it what you want, you growl. I know what you've done, what you're doing. He stands slowly, deliberately. We are cleansing the world of chaos, of noise, of lies passed as truth. We don't kill indiscriminately. We refine. We select. We raise voices that obey and silence those that twist. You step forward. You silence truth. He tilts his head. Truth is a luxury. Obedience is survival. The dagger is tight in your hand. Your pulse is fire now. He raises a hand, not in defense, but to gesture to a parchment on the desk. You glance at it. Your name. Next to a red mark. You were never meant to last this long, he says. You were meant to be silent. A tool. But tools dull. You lunge. The blade sinks deep into his side. But he doesn't scream. He doesn't fall. He just smiles and whispers. Too late. You rip the dagger free and drive it again, this time to the heart. He collapses. Finally. But the silence doesn't break. No alarm. No shouts. Just the sound of something else scraping. You whirl around. The guards from the corridor. 2 of them. Then 4. Then 6, all standing in the doorway. Motionless. Helmed. Waiting. You step back, dagger raised, heart hammering. But they don't move. Then one steps forward and removes their helmet. A face stares back at you. Familiar. Too familiar. It's yours. A perfect imitation. Expressionless. Eyes pale. Lips sealed with a faint puckered scar. They copied you. Trained a replica. Prepared your replacement. You feel it in your bones now. This is bigger than you imagined. They don't just control from the shadows. They become the people they erase. And now they're ready to replace you. Unless you burn them first. You don't breathe. Not right away. You just stare at the face that used to be yours or could have been. It's not a twin, not exactly. The expression is wrong. Blank where yours is clenched, hollow where you're burning. But the bone structure, the eyes, the scar on your chin from a childhood fall, it's all there. Perfect. Chilling. And now it moves. One step forward. Controlled. Mechanical. not aggressive but inevitable. You tighten your grip on the dagger. The other guards remain still, flanking the doorway like carved statues. You scan the room. No other exits. The window behind Sir Corwin's desk is narrow, barred with iron. The only way out is through them. The imitation speaks, not aloud, but in your voice, echoed back to you not from its mouth, but from a small metallic device clasped to its collar. A voice box, a mimicry tool, you've never seen one before. Not in this world. I am what you could have been, it says. What you were meant to be. Quiet. Precise. Obedient. You clench your jaw. I'm not a mirror. I'm not a puppet. You were, it replies. Until you broke. The word lands like an accusation. But you know better. You didn't break. You woke up. And now, with the weight of everything you've uncovered, Lady Marone's warning. Father Thane's silence, the ciphered records, the replacements. You understand what they fear most. Not blood, not blades. Exposure. You step toward your copy, slow and deliberate. You wear my face, but you'll never wear what I carry. It cocks its head. Curious. And what is that? You smile just barely. Conscience. Then you move. The first strike is low, slicing the tendons behind its left knee. It jerks, but doesn't cry out. Of course not. You leap sideways as the others lunge, rolling behind Corwin's desk, flipping the heavy chair toward the oncoming guards. Wood splinters. A helm cracks. One of them stumbles. You don't aim to win. You aim to escape. You drive your shoulder through the thin wooden panel behind the desk. Splinters slice your cheek and tumble into a dark storage corridor. You sprint through it, every step a gamble, every breath a firestorm in your chest. Behind you, the echoes follow. Precise, inhuman. Not the ragged chase of men, but the cold pursuit of something that doesn't get tuned. You burst into the west wing of the keep and throw a torch into a stack of stored linens. Fire leaps instantly. You don't wait to watch it grow. You duck into a side stairwell, racing downward into the undercrofts, the whole keep beginning to pulse with chaos. If they built a version of you, they planned for this contingency. But they didn't plan for your rage or your clarity. You reach the stables and yank open the stall of the black mare you spotted earlier, young, strong, restless. She doesn't resist. You leap on bareback and kick the gate wide, ducking as a crossbow bolt thuds into the wood behind you. Another flies past your ear. A third skims your cloak. But you're gone. Out the gate. Into the freezing moorland night. No guards at the drawbridge. No alarm bell. Just the quiet collapse of order behind you. You ride hard into the dark hooves, slicing across frost and stone. Only when Windhelm vanishes behind the ridgeline do you allow yourself a breath. The wind howls. The stars feel distant. But your mind is on fire. They tried to replace you and failed. Now you're not just a threat. You're uncontrollable. You press onward to the one place that still owes you loyalty, the monastery at Velshold. You'll deliver what you've seen. Not just the letter. Not just the cipher. But the truth. And this time you won't hide it in whispers. You'll light a fire that spreads faster than their silence. As dawn breaks, you arrive cloaked in ash smoke and blood. The monks pull you inside, eyes wide at your wounds, but you shake your head. No healing, you rasp. Not yet. I need the scriptorium, the archivist. Now. They lead you to the lower levels where candlelight flickers over a long table. Scrolls spread like wings. The archivist looks up, startled, but not surprised. I thought we might lose you. They almost did you mutter. But they showed me their plan. You lay down your final proof, a strip of flesh taken from the mimic. The sewn scar, the pale eye, the echo box. You unroll the cipher. You add names to it. More names. Dozens more. Cross-referenced, compiled, matched to donations, sudden deaths appointments made in silence. And then you speak. Clearly. Calmly. Like a bell tolling before a storm. This isn't just a guild. It's a replacement system. And I'm going to burn it to the ground. The scriptorium falls completely silent as your words hang in the air. Even the flickering of candle flames seems to pause. The archivist lowers his quill gaze fixed on the shredded strip of mimic flesh you laid before him. A grotesque trophy, a symbol of how far their reach has gone, and how much farther it will go unless someone stops it. He leans forward, his voice dry and tight. Are you certain? You nod. They tried to replace me. They already did it to others. They're not just eliminating threats, they're installing replicas. Perfect ones. Obedient ones. Another monk steps forward slowly, younger, barely 30. He removes a rolled parchment from his robe and places it beside yours. It's a different cipher. The archivist opens it and frowns. This was brought in 2 nights ago, he says. Delivered by a merchant's apprentice fleeing a fire in Nordhollow. He said he found it in a crate of wax-stamped wine bottles hidden inside the packaging. You scan the document. The handwriting is different. But the mark, that same stitched wolf. And again, that star-shaped symbol beside names. Some crossed in red, some not yet marked. A new list. Fresh names. It's spreading faster than even you thought. You grip the edge of the table, knuckles pale. The replacement is no longer experimental. It's operational. Towns are falling silent, leaders behaving erratically, messages intercepted. The silence isn't just being enforced, now it's being manufactured. Or worse, institutionalized. They have people in every city-state, you mutter. Not just pawns. Duplicates. Copies who won't ask questions, who follow orders, who smile when told to kneel. The archivist taps the table with a brittle finger. We need to go public. With what you ask. Scrolls and sermons, they'll burn it before it's read. Anyone we inform becomes a target. He stares at you for a long moment. Then we don't inform. We infect. You blink, come again. He leans in. We scatter fragments of truth across everything. Not full messages, seeds. A line slipped into sermons. A strange marking in a marketplace. A question scratched into the base of a public fountain. Make people wonder. Make them doubt. You understand immediately. You want to use folk rumor. He nods. That's how they started, isn't it? Whisper networks. Untraceable. No single source. If they operate in silence, then we bury truth in the noise. It's brilliant, risky, but it might work. You spend the next hours crafting phrases, short ones, repeatable ones, phrases that plant unease. The bishop speaks, but does he breathe? Did your brother return, or just his shape? When the mouth is closed, ask who sealed it. You train the monks in secrecy, encryption, and dispersal. You copy maps marking sites where resistance can take root. Bakeries, taverns, candle makers, traveling minstrels, places where words move faster than blades. You're not trying to expose everything. You're trying to crack the dam. One whisper at a time. But as dusk settles over Velshold again, a single question lodges in your mind. What happens when they realize you're not just surviving, but fighting back? You know the answer already. They'll send the best. Not a copy, not a mimic, but a cleaner, a figure without identity, trained not to replace, not to question, but to erase. You've seen it once, years ago. A courtyard silenced overnight. The cleaner doesn't ask for names, doesn't speak. Just moves through stone and fire and leaves nothing but ash. And that's what's coming next. You head to your quarters and remove your gear. Old leathers, damaged bracers, broken boots. You begin reforging your own tools, sharpening your edges, because the war has shifted. And while the world sleeps through sermons and sweet songs, you are preparing a new gospel. One of truth and flame, because soon the silence will bleed. The days that follow move like breath through a blade, silent, sharp, inevitable. You no longer count time in sunrises or suppers. You measure it in parchment distributed in phrases etched in minds unsettled. The plan is in motion. You can feel it rippling outward from Velshold into cities that have forgotten how to doubt. At inns, a child sings a skipping rhyme you planted. He speaks too smooth, his eyes too wide. That's not the baker, though. He tried. In a cathedral, a priest's candle bears an unusual carving, a wolf with sealed lips. He doesn't notice, but his congregation does. At the public well in Haldrick's Cross, someone finds a copper coin etched with a question, "Who taught the new judge your name seeds?" Each one a crack in the illusion, a whisper that someone isn't quite right. And now the guild is starting to notice. The forger at Velshold intercepts a courier's satchel last night, one that wasn't supposed to arrive. Inside a wax-sealed scroll written in tight code addressed not to a name but a designation. T-17C. That alone chills you. It's how the guild tracks its synthetic operatives. Not people. Not soldiers. Assets. You translate the message. 3 words. Cleaner dispatched. Velshold. It's begun. No ceremony. No grand threat. Just precision. A scalpel sliding toward the heart. The monks double the watch. The archivist orders the scroll chamber sealed and its contents relocated. Copies of the cipher are split, packed, smuggled out in hollowed candle molds in rosaries carved from ink-hardened wood. Everything is meant to survive, even if Velshold does not. You don't sleep. You sit at the edge of the monastery walls, staring down into the pines, waiting for the snow to stir wrong, for the wind to bend the wrong way. Then on the 3rd night you see it. A shimmer. Not a person. Not yet. Just absence. like a space where light refuses to sit. You rise without a word blade already in hand and descend the staircase like smoke. No armor, no cloak, just silence against silence. You stalk through the crypt-level tunnels beneath the monastery places even the monks avoid. Old stone, unfinished prayers still echoing in the mortar. Your boots make no sound. Then you hear it. A breath that isn't yours. Faint, almost reverent. You flatten yourself against the wall and slide forward. The cleaner steps into view. Cloaked in slate-gray cloth, face wrapped in gauze, eyes hidden behind a veil of lacquered glass. No insignia, no skin visible. They carry no visible weapon. They don't need one. Their body is the weapon. You knew this moment would come. What you didn't expect was how calm you feel. You step into view and speak first. Late, aren't you? The cleaner tilts its head just slightly, not confused, just curious. You drop the blade. I'm not the only one anymore. You say it not as a plea, but a warning. They move. Fast. Faster than memory. You dodge barely. The stone where your head was shatters like dried bread under a heel strike. You roll, scoop, your blade swing, miss. They're already behind you. Another strike, your shoulder catches the edge and pain rips down your sap wound. You lash out with the dagger. Hit cloth. No flesh. You don't know if there is flesh. But then you remember. They're precise. They don't like variables. So you introduce one. You grab the oil lantern from the tunnel wall and shatter it on the floor. Flames blossom. Smoke surges. Shadows dance. Now their precision is cluttered. You move into the chaos knife forward cloak aflame at the hem, but you don't care. You find them in the smoke. You smile. And strike, right where the voice box clasp would be beneath the collarbone. The cleaner stumbles. That's all you need. One moment. You slam them into the pillar, and for the first time, they speak. A whisper. Raspy. Not male, not female. More will come. You press your blade harder, then let them, and you finish it. Quick, silent, as it should be. You drag the body into the deepest part of the catacombs and leave it for the stone to claim. By dawn, you've cleaned your blade, bound your wounds, and placed the cleaner's mask on the monastery gate. A message, not to the people, to the guild. You've stopped being a loose end. You've become the beginning of something they can't silence. And now, you prepare for war. By mid-morning, the monastery is stirring with energy it hasn't known in years. Not fear, focus. Monks who once lived only to copy old prayers now etch warnings into the linings of market sacks. A scribe in the North Tower hammers out cipher keys onto bits of slate meant for schoolchildren. Even the cook has taken to slipping messages into bags of grain bound for outlying villages, phrases like, "Don't trust familiar eyes," or, "The watchman forgets his own wife's name." Your cleaner's mask still hangs from the iron gate, blackened by smoke and cold morning dew. No one has dared remove it. It doesn't just represent your survival, it declares that their silence has met its match. Inside the abbey, you meet again with the archivist and his inner circle. Maps are spread, routes are drawn, names are matched with symbols from the cipher. You've begun building a resistance even if it's nameless. even if most who join it never know you exist. You show them everything you've gathered. The mimic's caller voice apparatus fractured at the seal, the shredded cipher pages from Care Home and the merchant satchel, Sir Corwin's false ledger entries, Father Thane's sealed lips. Proof. The archivist leans back, folds his hands, and looks at you across the candle-lit table. You've made your mark, but if you intend to burn the rot, you'll need something they don't have. You raise a brow. What's that, a voice? You almost laugh. They have every voice. They've replaced half of them. Exactly, he says. You haven't. That makes you real. He's right. They control through imitation, through flawless masks, obedient shells. They don't inspire. They don't ignite. You do, but you can't do it alone. So you do something you've never done before. You reveal yourself. You compose a letter, not a cipher, not a whisper, a confession. It begins with a truth no assassin ever tells. My name is forgotten. My hands have taken lives. But now they carry something greater. A warning, a reckoning, a fire they cannot copy. You describe what you've seen, what you've survived. You don't name the monastery. You don't sign the letter. But you place it inside crates bound for ports, stitched into tapestries hidden in the seams of noble garments. Some will be burned, some intercepted, but some will survive. And the people who read them, they'll begin to notice, to question, to watch. That's all it takes. A whisper in the ear of a farmer, a hesitation in the step of a guard, a look shared between lovers who suddenly wonder if the voice they hear is real. It spreads. And that's when the rumors start. Not about the replacements, not about the guild, but about you. No name, just a title. The one who wasn't replaced. Tales begin to drift through taverns. They say you escaped death, that you move like smoke and carve truth into stone, that your blade isn't drawn for gold anymore, but for memory. You didn't start the story, but you're going to finish it. Because as the days pass, and as the snow thaws from the hills of Velshold, you sense what's coming. Not another cleaner, something worse. A figurehead. The guild doesn't need to kill you anymore. They need to discredit you. They're going to send you back into the world. A perfect copy, trained to speak your words, to twist your story, to bleed your movement from the inside. Unless you strike first. Because now it's no longer about survival. It's about narrative. And whoever controls the story wins. So you gather your cloak, sharpen your blade, and disappear down the mountain. Toward the next shadow they cast, ready to burn it clean. The road into the lowlands is quiet, but you feel the tremble beneath its stillness. Word of your letter, your presence has spread farther than you thought possible. Everywhere you pass, you catch glimpses of the ripple you've left behind, a child's song that includes a line about the masked one who sees a tavern sign defaced with a stitched wolf sketch, a magistrate in a roadside village who flinches when you glance too long. You haven't said your name in weeks, but somehow everyone is starting to whisper it. Even if they don't know it. They know the idea, the one who escaped, the one they couldn't copy, and the guild is finally reacting. Your old contacts are gone, not killed, replaced. You recognize it instantly. The hesitation before answering a question only you and the real one would know. The lack of scars where they should be. The way they speak like reading from a script they only half understand. You no longer mourn them. You simply move past them. Quietly. Efficiently. Because you've begun your own list. Not names from the cipher, but the replacements. Every time you confirm one, you mark it with a small charcoal dot on your arm guard. 1 dot, then 2, then 7. Each one is a question turned into certainty. Each one brings you closer to the figurehead, the one the guild is grooming to become your shadow. The false you. They won't just copy your face. They'll recreate your myth. Twist it. Soften it. Make you into something tame. A controlled rebellion. A symbol with a leash. Unless you stop it first. That's why you're headed to Eberholt. A city of masks, trade, and hidden allegiances. A place where ideas are traded as easily as coin, and lies travel faster than horses. If the guild is planning to unveil a new version of you, it will happen there at the festival of returning a holy day, cloaked in pageantry, when performers wear the faces of lost saints and kings. You arrive 2 nights before the festival. The streets buzz with masked dancers and torch-lit processions. But beneath the celebration, the architecture of silence still stands. You see it in the guards who don't blink, in the officials who repeat each other's words a beat too late, in the way certain market stalls are arranged not for profit, but for observation. You slip between shadows, gather whispers, and then you find it. A flyer, black ink, red thread along the edge, a symbol burned faintly in the corner. Your symbol, the one you never made. On the final night, beneath the rose arch, the voice of the forgotten returns. Come, hear the truth. You feel the blood drain from your fingertips. They're not just copying you, they're launching you as a myth, tamed, framed, contained. If people follow that version of you, then everything you've done, every truth, every body, every flame gets rewritten in silence. You spend the next day watching the arch, and that's when you see them. The figure, cloaked, hooded, broad shoulders, face covered in a scarf, just thick enough to obscure, but not so thick you can't see that it's close. Too close. Same height, same eyes, same scar at the chin. They move like you, but wrong. Too smooth, too perfect. You wait, breathe, then follow. They move through alleys, whisper to handlers, adjust their posture depending on who sees them. They smile at children, pause dramatically at corners. They're not copying you, they're acting you, which means you still have time. Time to cut the strings before they pull the curtain. That night you find their quarters, a rented apartment above a glassmaker's shop. You slip in. No sound. Inside parchment. Stacks of it. Training notes. Voice modulation drills. Movement diagrams. Eyewitness accounts of your work annotated. Altered. Censored. In one, your story at Velshold is rewritten, the cleaner spared. The cipher destroyed. The message peace through order. The moral silence saves lives. They're not just replacing you, they're rewriting what you stand for. You set the parchment on fire, every page. Then you disappear again. Tomorrow night, beneath the rose arch, they will try to speak your truth. And that's when you'll remind them you don't speak truth. You carve it. The day of the festival of returning arrives with bells, banners, and breathless anticipation. The entire city of Eberholt becomes a theater. Children wear garlands of paper flames. Priests chant half-remembered songs in the open plazas. Merchants raise their prices threefold. But beneath the music and the masks, you feel it a second heartbeat beneath the city's skin. A rhythm no one else hears. The quiet countdown to your erasure. You spend the hours before nightfall preparing not just weapons, but presents. You clean the soot from your leathers. You repair the cloak slashed at Windhelm. You fasten your bracers tighter than before and tuck a tiny blade into your left boot, the last word you've always called it. The rose arch is the centerpiece of the closing ceremony. Tall, ancient, draped in blood-red banners. And tonight it has a stage beneath it, built just for you. Or rather, the version of you they've chosen to reveal. By sundown, the crowd gathers hundreds deep. They wear masks carved from wood-bone clay. They murmur with curiosity, expectation, a city hungry for a symbol. And then the false you appears, cloaked, graceful, familiar. They step onto the stage and raise a hand. The crowd stills. The voice that follows is almost perfect. Almost. I was hunted, betrayed, replaced. But now I return, to bring peace through obedience, to end the lies with order. Soft cheers. But you're already moving, not toward the stage, but through the crowd. You wear a mask of weathered iron, scorched at the edges, carved with your real sigil, the one from Moran's letter, the one the guild never understood. You move quietly past guards trained to see threats and chaos, not calm. The crowd listens mesmerized as your mimic continues. We do not need voices. We need unity. We do not need blades. We need silence. You reach the edge of the stage and speak. Not loud, but clear. No. It cuts through everything. The crowd stirs, turns, faces blur with surprise. The mimic freezes mid-sentence, then slowly looks toward you. And in that moment, they know. You step forward, removing your mask. No speeches, no grand reveal. Just truth, scarred, breathing, alive. I don't preach silence, you say, voice carrying now. I expose it. Gasps ripple outward. The mimic lunges, predictable. But you've waited for this. You move faster, cleaner. Your blade finds its mark, not the heart, the throat, not to kill, to reveal. You pull back the scarf. The crowd gasps again, not because of what you've done, but what they see. No voice box, no tongue, no soul behind the eyes. Just an empty shell, an imitation. You drop the body at the foot of the stage and face the crowd. They wanted to give you a symbol you could trust, you say. They gave you a puppet. You raise the scarf, show the seal beneath it. The wolf with the sealed mouth is real, but I am not theirs. And neither are you, silence. then a whisper, then dozens. A wave of murmurs rising, turning. You vanish into it, like smoke. By morning, every corner of Eberholt carries the story, the real story. The assassin who couldn't be copied, the mask torn away, the fire that would not be silenced, and in the vaults of the mute tongue far from the eyes of the world, a new name is etched into the red ledger. Yours, not as an asset, not as a threat, but as the first mistake they couldn't erase. And now the war for truth has begun, not in shadows, but in flame.